Colonel Allen West, former congressman from Florida and the CEO of the National Center for Policy Analysis. Colonel West, thank you for joining us.
Leslie, thanks so much for having me on with you.
So there's no official word of what inspired the shooter, but it's hard not to connect the dots. Am I right?
Well, Leslie, you have to be deaf, dumb, and blind, kind of like Tommy, the movie by The Who, to not realize what this is all about. ISIS has been talking about on social media to go out and conduct attacks against U.S. military personnel, anyone that, seems to be military personnel. Now, what you have to also look at, not this incident in isolation, but think about it this way. In June of 2009, we had Carlos Bledsoe, a young man from Memphis, Tennessee, who attacked a Little Rock, Arkansas.
But he had changed his name.
Station.
He had changed his name.
He changed his name. That's the point. He was radicalized. He changed his name. Traveled to Somalia and Yemen. We had then later on in the year, November 2009, Nidal Hasan, who killed 13 and wounded 31. What does it take for the Obama administration to understand that our men and women here in the United States of America are still on a battlefield and they need to be protected? And so yesterday, the president should have immediately made a decision. This morning, it should have been an executive order that the president had issued. He's really good with executive orders on everything else, but why not do something that protects our men and women? Because this Clinton-era restriction on our military personnel being able to protect themselves, this has to end.
Well, Colonel West, I really want to talk to you about that because I was surprised to learn that military bases are generally gun-free zones, which to me is like designating a cafeteria a food-free zone. It makes no sense to me at all. Why would you trust a guy with a gun and your life when you fight side by side with him in, say, Fallujah, but you can't trust that same guy with the same gun in Chattanooga? I mean, what was the reason for the ban?
Well, you'd have to ask Bill Clinton. I think this is part of this whole, gun control mantra. But you're right. When you think about what happened with Nidal Hasan, it was civilian contracted police that shot him and took him down. Washington Naval Yard, it was the D.C. police. There yesterday in Chattanooga, it was the local law enforcement. It was not military people enabled to defend themselves. And so we're not talking about everyone on a military installation walking around with their M4s and machine guns, but we're talking about, by a duty roster, designating individuals within a unit area that are able to walk around with their sidearms. Look, when I was a pay officer back in 1983, 1984, early on in the military, I had, my sidearm, a 45 millimeter. Then also I had a guard doing, pay procedures because I was dealing with cash. So why not allow that to happen today? And these reserve centers, yesterday this Abdul Aziz drove through the gate. There was no one at the entry or exit point. And so he was just able to, simply drive on and gun down these unarmed Marines who, I guarantee you, that reserve center had an arms room there, and they should not have been unarmed.
I don't mean to go off on a tangent on this, but I just want to mention it seems particularly odd to me that we won't trust our own military with guns, but we'll trust the Iranians with ICBMs. The logic of it doesn't make any sense. But again, I don't want to get off on a tangent on that. So it seemed to me, with what you've said, Colonel West, we've known for a while that ISIS has been openly calling on attacks on our military in our homeland by anyone who will do it. Please do it, they said, before Ramadan ends. Yep. Right? And we also have James Comey, who basically said, well, we lose them on the internet. We have no way of, they go underground and we have no way of tracking what's going on. So, and I noticed that immediately upon the events unfolding yesterday, there was word that there were hundreds of FBI agents assigned to this case. Now, that doesn't normally happen if it's just a lone gunman, as the president said. And, we think it's just somebody committing a crime for their own purposes. Does it matter if it's ISIS-directed or ISIS-inspired? Isn't the end result still the same to us?
It is still the same, and this is what I think from a strategic perspective we have to stop doing. We say war on terror. That's a horrible misnomer. That would be just like saying we fought World War II against the Blitzkrieg or the kamikaze. Those are tactics. We continue to relegate ourselves down to specific organizations, Al-Qaeda or ISIS or whatever. We don't see this as a global Islamic jihadist movement that we need to be able to confront, combat, identify, and take down. We need to be able to understand their networks, and we need to put every aspect of our nation's power, our diplomatic, informational, military, and economic aspects of our power against that. And so we should be, getting out there on these social media networks and finding out what people are doing and precluding them from being able to go underground. But then also we have to be able to attack them, wholeheartedly. We need to use our diplomatic pressure and economic pressure to find out who's funding these individuals, who's supporting them economically and financially, and isolate and cut them off. And we're not doing that. So now what we sit around and say, well, we don't think he was really engaged in, international terrorism. Well, that's an excuse. It is the same old thing that, lone wolves or whatever. Rudy Giuliani said it very well. This is now a wolf pack, and we need to, take down the pack.
You talk about what to do about it when I feel like we are losing this battle ideologically. We're losing it militarily. We're not even trying, apparently, militarily.
No, you're absolutely right.
And we're losing it strategically as well. And I'm not, when I look at this shooter had a few postings, but they weren't overtly violent, and they were recent, and they were more religiously based. And I'm not sure if this was an intelligence failure. The breadcrumbs were not obvious here. We can arm our military on the basis, as you suggest, but wouldn't then the terrorists just move on to other soft targets like malls or sporting events? I mean, is it time to just admit we're at war and then begin fighting like we'd actually like to win it?
Well, that's the most important thing, is to admit that we're at war. We need to start talking about victory. We need to start having leadership that educates the American people that this is a very serious threat. But most importantly, what you just kind of hinted at, we've got to stop with this political correctness. We have to stop, being so afraid of someone saying you're an Islamophobe or you're offending me. Look at the surveillance program in New York City that Mayor Bill de Blasio got rid of. Why? Because he didn't want to hurt people's feelings? Well, at war, you don't worry about folks' feelings because the lives of the citizens that you're entrusted to protect are at risk. And so what we have to do is start with a system of trend analysis, because this young man in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Hickson, Tennessee, we need to know who are his friends, who are his associates, who is he close to at his worship center, at his mosque. What about his imam? Was he radicalizing? I mean, we have to start peeling back the onion on this intricate web and network that is out there and expose it. And we can't be so reticent and recalcitrant, worrying about, this is the religion of peace or whatever. Let's stop with this false narrative, and let's start trying to understand that this is a very vile militant Islamic jihadist movement that we're going to have to deal with. And unfortunately, it does not start with the President of the United States of America, which is one of the main reasons why he's got to be gone, and we cannot have anyone of that same mindset. I mean, has Hillary Clinton made a statement? Has Bernie Sanders made a statement?
No, I don't think so. They're talking about raising taxes on the wealthy. The most important thing in the world.
Share prosperity.
That's right. Colonel Allen West, thank you so much for joining us and your perspective. I so appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leslie. All the best.